Hey everybody, welcome back to Tech Odyssey. So I'm following up on my testing of the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra, but this guy, since we've had OneUI 4 come out, which is Android 12. I've been using it, I've been testing it out. I'm happy to report that it seems like the battery life is better than when it was earlier this year. So just a little bit of backstory. When the S21 Ultra first came out, it was like Apollo's gift to mankind, bringing fire down from the sky, and it was good. It got like 7, 8, even up to 9 hours of screen on time, and I wasn't babying it. I had the brightness up, I had adaptive brightness off, 120 hertz, all that jazz. It was good. And then it's like a couple weeks later, the February update came out, and it took the battery life and it drove it off a cliff. And then the March update drove it off another cliff until by the time April rolled around, I would use it, and I kid you not, one day I killed the battery in 3 hours and 45 minutes of screen on time, which is just mind boggling because it's got a 5,000 milliamp battery. So there have been issues with the S21 Ultra, but also other phones throughout 2021. Because of the Snapdragon 888, it is very, very power hungry, and a lot of different brands had different ways of trying to mitigate the heat or did not mitigate it well, which led to even poor performance. So now that this phone has been out an entire year, and I'm gonna cover a little bit more than just the battery life in here, but I'm gonna tell you up front, I've been using this phone, and I did something a little bit different. So I tested it individually, and then I've also tested it this time over the course of 3 days, and I've used it for about 2 hours a day for the last 3 days because I wanted to see if the standby time improved as well, because standby time was bad on the earlier software updates earlier this year. It's like you would pick it up a couple hours later and it would keep, like, the battery would go down. So I'm getting over 6 hours of screen on time, which 6 hours is like my magic bar of excellence for what I consider to be enough battery for me to get through the day. 6 hours of screen on time. Well, this one not only has produced over 6 hours of screen on time, it's also done it over the course of 3 days, which is pretty darn good because standby time, as you know, is connected to. I've got my SIM card in here. It's not just on Wi Fi. I've got the SIM card in there. It is connected to Wi Fi, but I've also left the house with it. It has maintained about 30% a day, actually less than that, because right now I'm sitting at 30% battery, and on the battery life, I'm looking at battery usage 6 hours, 37 minutes of screen on time over the last 3 days. And that's just ridiculous. So, yeah, sorry, 6 hours and 6 minutes of screen on time over the last 3 days. And that's 6 hours and 27 minutes the phone's been used. So I think that the battery life is better. I think that Samsung finally, after a year, has got things ironed out, and the complete opposite of Android 12 with the Google Pixel phones, it seems to be better. And that's also another anomaly here because typically Google, I mean, they do make Android. So you would think that the Pixel phone would have the best implementation, the best version, the best, most working version of Android 12, and it seems to be Samsung. And they've been rolling it out to other phones as well. I got in the beta. I was with the Z Flip, the Z Fold. Also, I got the full release on S21 Ultra here. And this made me really happy because earlier this year, the battery life situation was so frustrating that it made me not want to use the phone anymore. So I haven't used this phone as a primary device since I guess about April and May. And that was fine with me because I was so frustrated with it. It seems like now, a year later, with all the software updates, moving over to Android 12, and maybe it had something to do. I did do. Actually, I didn't even do a fresh start. I transferred stuff. So, yeah, it's one of those things. Over time, software usually gets better. Of course, it's had time to learn routines and all that stuff. I've been using it for the last probably 2 weeks now, and I'm very happy with it. So I'm happy to say now that it seems like a year later, they finally fixed all the underlying issues, and I think maybe it was just whatever they did with Android 11 since they moved over to Android 12, because I even tested it back in June. A lot of people were like, you should test it again. The battery life's better, the software updates, ta-da. And I didn't really find it to be all that much better, so I just gave it to my son to let him use it. So this phone has been used heavily for the last 6 or 7 months by my son. I got it back. I did a factory reset, set it back up again, and it seems to be doing much, much better. So again, I'm looking at 6 hours and 6 minutes of screen on time here. I will caution you also. So I've got adaptive brightness turned off. I have adaptive battery turned on. I've got 120 hertz on. I've been using it with dark mode, about 60% brightness. I turned it up to 80 today, but I was using it about 60% brightness, which is a little lower than I usually use it, but a lot of people don't have it turned up as bright as I do. So I wanted to try and get a good average medium for what I think people could probably expect. I think it's probably safe to say that you can probably get 6 hours of screen on time out of it now, which with the 5,000 milliamp battery and a Snapdragon 888, I think that's very fair. Are you going to get 7, 8, 9 hours? Yeah, maybe, maybe not. If you use adaptive saving measures, if you use adaptive brightness, if you turn the brightness down, if you use other battery saving measures, if you're not using 120 hertz, which I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't, but there are ways you can squeeze more juice out of this phone, but you're going to get, I think, probably at least 6 hours of screen on time now. That's way, way better. I was averaging about 4.5 earlier this year. In some cases, I even got less than 4. So the phone, I think that it is better. I think it's improved. And also, I think moving into the territory of the S22, honestly, this may be probably still the best phone to hold on to. I don't recommend getting an S22 Ultra if you've got the S21 Ultra, but you also get the nicety of having the stylus. The big selling point for the upcoming S22 Ultra is, of course, it's effectively a Note. It's the Note 22 Ultra, right? So being able to use a stylus with your S21 Ultra, it's a pretty nice thing, and it's a nice phone. And I always liked the phone. Whenever I first got it, the camera top-notch, the video quality top-notch, all the software features. I like OneUI. It's probably my favorite version of Android. And the power, the sophistication, the 5,000 milliamp battery. The only problem, and we'll circle the wagon back around, the only problem, period, that I had with this phone was the battery life. And it seems like largely that's been fixed. And I think that's a good thing. I'm sure there are still going to be anomaly cases out there where it's better some days, it's worse some days. There's probably going to be some people who get much better battery life. You may even get poor battery life. But going back and testing it, using it for the last 2 weeks, and then coming up with this and even also the standby time, I've been very impressed with it. And I think that at 6 hours of screen on time, that I can finally give it a thumbs up again after all this time. Because at the beginning of the year, when I first got it, I loved it. And then it drove me mad for months. And then now it seems like life is good again. So if you are considering even getting an S22 Ultra at this point, this may even be something worthwhile to pick up, because you can get it with trade in a lot of places for $790. Like Samsung, $790 with like peak trade-in value right now, which that's pretty good, because I can tell you right now that the S22 Ultra is going to be expensive. I think probably after tax around the $1,500 ballpark. They're going to milk this for everything it's worth. They're going to charge people an astronomical amount of money, and people are going to buy it because we have this pent-up demand for this Note-style phone, and that's effectively what this is. You just have to get a case that holds the S Pen in it, and it's really about the same thing. So that's fine with me. Like I'm okay with an S-line series phone having S Pen support. Do I think that you necessarily need to have an internal compartment? No. Especially not for the prices I know they're going to charge for this thing. And even looking at it from a bang for your buck perspective, the S21 Ultra, if you can get it for $700, $800, if you trade something in, you can get them on resale, you can get them refurbished, you can get them Amazon renewed. You can find these phones a lot of places at significantly reduced costs from the $1199 MSRP whenever it first came out. That's fixing to get reset with the S22 Ultra. It's going to be expensive, and I'm kind of expecting the S22 phones across the board to go up in price. So I know you guys are waiting on this. OneUI 4, solid. Android 12 on here is really, really enjoyable to use. And I gotta say, I'm happy that it seems like they finally got the battery life situation sorted out, at least to a manageable level, to where power users like me are not going to cringe at the battery life watching it just drain quickly all day long. So that's my report. That's all I've got with regard to the battery testing and my thoughts on the S21 Ultra as we approach S22 season, which is just around the corner. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave those down in the comments section. I'll get back with you. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.